Welcome to another insight into some of the preparations taking place ahead of May the 6th, behind the scenes. For anyone who witnessed the funeral of the late Queen, universally regarded as faultless in its execution, even though the planning for it had been going on for years, it is still hard to believe that everything went so smoothly. The answer is of course down to brilliant planning and rigorous rehearsals. So over the last few weeks, should you have been idling in the streets of central London late at night or before dawn, you might have heard the clip-clop of hooves, the purr of stirrups on leather, and the clang of swords, as hundreds of service personnel were moving along the processional route on horseback, meticulously going through their paces. More than 6,000 members of the armed forces will take part on the day, which means there are helmets to be polished, bearskins to be brushed, uniforms cleaned, horses groomed. The 8 Windsor Greys, pulling the Gold State coach, are being trained to withstand the noise levels of the crowds and the aircraft buzzing across the skies. Staff at their equestrian stables have been greeting the animals on a daily basis with flags, drums and cheering to make sure that nothing will surprise them. Several weeks ago, a replica coronation stage was set up in the ballroom at Buckingham Palace to allow King Charles and the Queen Consort to rehearse for the big day. We know that 70 years ago the wife of the then Earl Marshal, the Duchess of Norfolk, used to stand in for the Queen during TV camera rehearsals. We also know Her Majesty attended several run-throughs and a full dress rehearsal. Ceremonial diagrams were produced in 1953 in order to avoid a collision of key players. Arrows illustrated their routes, the Queen represented by a circle with a capital S for sovereign, and the Archbishop of Canterbury by a circle with a capital C. Since the Abbey closed on the 25th of April, in-situ rehearsals have been taking place, following careful instructions set out in a special document. Of course, in the past things didn't always go according to plan. When George IV finally acceded to the throne in 1820, he was the one who was nicknamed Prinny, and was the high-spending Prince of Wales known for his lavish tastes. He didn't worry about how much it was going to cost, but the one thing he didn't want was for his wife to be there. Events were delayed for quite a while till he got his way, and indeed Queen Caroline was barred from entry. George IV's brother William couldn't have been more different. He didn't want to be crowned at all, or to spend any money on it, so his investiture became known as the penny coronation. If TV had existed in George's day, he would have definitely had it televised. In 1953, so that the coverage would reach as many areas of the kingdom as possible, 4 new high-powered transmitters were installed in the Midlands, Northern England, Scotland and Wales, bringing 81% of the population within range. Anyone who was there may well remember that a test card was shown to people on their small black and white TV screens for viewers to be able to adjust contrast and brightness before the start of the live broadcast. In the Abbey, cameramen wearing suits and ties back then squeezed themselves into the narrowest of positions up in the 13th century triforium high above the nave. This is a tall central space 52 feet above the ground, with the most astonishing views through the 6 feet diameter round windows segmented into flower petal-like sections, affording views over Parliament in one direction and the nave in the other. This triforium is home to the Abbey's greatest treasures, including the Liber Regalis, restored effigies of past kings, carved tombs, paintings and manuscripts, and has recently been made open to the public. The view of the nave is astonishing, and it is why the cameras are placed there, then and now, for the all-encompassing wide shot. The main problem facing the cameramen, then, was the space they had to operate in. The 5 cameras in the Abbey had to be as inconspicuous as possible, and most were housed in a small wooden box-like hut, where even the shortest cameraman couldn't stand up. And one small fellow was hidden under a raised floorboard with a cloth over his head. It was also the first time a zoom lens, the Watson zoom, was used, but only in a very discreet way. Cameras searching out celebrities in the congregation just wasn't done back then. 70 years later, in addition to the BBC installing their technical equipment, a new feature reflecting our times is the installation of airport-style scanners and checkpoints to screen the 2,000 guests, who may well have been carefully selected, but in 2023 you can't take any chances. Imagine screening 8,000 guests as there were in 1953. One small yet vital aspect of the preparations which was deployed for the Queen's state funeral will happen again for 4 days before the big day, and it involves a falcon. A hooded falcon is to be taken up to the roof of the abbey by the abbey falconer, did we know that there was such a job, to scare the pigeons away. There should be no pigeons flying around the magnificent vaulted ceiling of the abbey, or worse still, above the altar. Which prompts me to look down at the floor of the Theatre of the Coronation, as it is called, the place in front of the high altar where the ceremony will take place, on the Cosmati pavement. The Cosmati pavement, measuring 24 feet 10 inches square, 7 meters 58, was laid down in 1268 by the order of Henry III, who had started rebuilding the old abbey. He summoned workmen from Rome, with a man called Odoricus at their head. The pavement comprises a type of inlaid stone decoration known as Cosmati work, named after one of its craftsmen, and the technique is called opus sectile, cut work. This differs from earlier medieval mosaic work, which consisted of square stones of equal size. This pavement has hundreds of delicate geometrical patterns built up from pieces of English Purbeck limestone, Italian white marble, pieces of glass of different colours and sizes, purple porphyry, green serpentine, yellow limestone, and opaque-coloured glass, red, turquoise, cobalt blue, and bluish white. These have been cut into triangles, squares, circles, rectangles, and many other shapes. There are over 93,000 elements to it. A frequent design is a six-petalled flower in reds, blues, and turquoise. Other patterns are abstract or geometric. Looking down on this square from above, I see a border with 4 rectangles, one in each side of the border. Inside the border, a square with horizontal and vertical lines. Inside that, a smaller transversal square, with the corners pointing upwards, downwards, and out to the sides. Every inch of this pavement is a mosaic pattern, and they're all different. The border almost looks like a backgammon board, with 5 roundels or circles bunched in each corner. Or perhaps the internal workings of a clock, each one different. Or you could be looking down on 20 brass coffee tables, the sort you have in the Middle East. That is the visual effect the pavement has on me. The large square inside the border has a roundel in each corner, and so does the transversal square. All in all, there are 28 highly decorated circles, and a 29th in the middle, made of cream-coloured onyx. The 4 main roundels are all different. One is circular, one hexagonal, one heptagonal, and another octagonal. The official description of the pavement doesn't go anywhere near to conveying the beauty and extraordinary detail of it. The best way of seeing it would indeed be floating 12 feet above it. According to the only medieval interpretation we have, taken from a brass inscription, the pavement symbolizes the world or the universe and its end. And the end will come after 19,683 years, which has been calculated by a chronology based on the mythical lifespan of animals. The pavement was cleaned in 2010, but in the last few weeks there's been special occasion cleaning using chisels, grinders and wax to bring the colours up to their maximum. And it is on this pavement that a platform will be erected to house the coronation chair. For more about that and the Stone of Scone, click on the link. But hot off the press, as we've been talking about roundels, the iconic London Transport emblem, a red circle with a blue line across it and the name of the station in white letters, is to have a small golden crown on the top. And they'll be calling it a croundel.